Serena in the games is a pretty straightforward, not particularly interesting character. If you choose the girl protagonist, you are playing as her, and the protagonist of X and Y is not the most interesting character in the world. If you choose the boy, Serena is your rival, who does not really seem to have a strong passion for anything. The Gen 6 rivals are some of the weakest in the entire series. I think that's pretty common consensus. Instead of making one or two really good rivals, they made a whole bunch of rather middling rivals. I don't think a lot of people remember the likes of Tierno and Shauna. But Serena is probably the most disappointing, because her design is good, and the character seems interesting, and yet she just pops up every now and then to battle you. She doesn't really have any story. She's not someone who is as interesting as the games are trying to make her out to be. At least with, say, Dawn in Gen 4, if you choose the boy, Dawn pops up and she's friendly and she helps you out a bit. And she is, at worst, non-obtrusive. Serena, though, keeps coming up. The games want this character to mean something, and she just doesn't to the extent that she probably should. The anime fixes her tremendously and creates a very vivid, passionate, imaginative character who makes good on the promises of Serena in the games, just as the X and Y anime as a whole does a very good job of making good on the promises of X and Y, the games, that are not necessarily fully fulfilled. Now, one might wonder why I'm making this video now. And there are a few reasons. One could say that it's appropriate considering that we're finally getting the Legends game for Pokemon Z, the long-rumored Pokemon Z. But the actual reason, I think, and the more important reason, is something a bit more personal. I'm back home right now. I'm back in my childhood house, and being in a place where you have so many deep memories evokes a lot of those memories. The modernists, above all, were great at examining those links of associations, of sensations, how an ostensibly mundane, ordinary event can trigger this flood of reminiscence, this flood of associations stretching back into one's personal past in ways that are unexpected but quite moving. What F. Scott Fitzgerald, I think, is correct when he refers to an aesthetic contemplation neither understood nor desired. Someone like Marcel Proust, whom I'm actually reading right now, does a great job in the famous scenes of just a protagonist gets a little Madeline cookie and eats it, and it transports him back to all the whirling sensations and images and scenes, vignettes of his childhood. Someone like Virginia Woolf is perhaps even better at examining that flood of associations, how something so minor and so mundane can, from an experiential perspective, be laden with such deep and resonant significance. All of this is perhaps a roundabout way of saying that I'm back where I grew up, and I'm remembering a lot of my old Pokemon memories. My old memories of X and Y specifically. It's an interesting part of my life where I was past the full Pokemon craze that I was fully immersed in as a kid, and yet I still cared about these games, and I was trying to really figure out how to care about these games in a way that I can reconcile with being a thoughtful adult who has a lot of interests. How do you maintain that interest and not throw it away entirely while also still maturing and not obsessing over one thing the way that you did when you were a kid? I actually did not finish X and Y for a while. I didn't finish them until maybe 3 or so years after I got the games. And I watched the anime around the same time I finally beat the games, when I was a stressed out high schooler, and yeah, I was a bit nostalgic, wanting to go back to my childhood. And also, I found a lot to really like about these games, and a lot to really like about the anime. Serena came to my attention in the anime first because of Amor shipping, because she is by far the female companion who shows the most interest in Ash from a romantic perspective. Misty does like him, that's highlighted, but it's not something that's lingered on. May is kind of like a younger sister in a way, or he's her mentor in a sense. Dawn is like a very close friend. Serena genuinely does like him. And there's a lot of very cute moments there, and I enjoyed watching those, perhaps more than I would have admitted at the time. And it really made me think about the fact I really did like this character. She was not just the gooey love interest. I do want to emphasize that. She was passionate, she was a bit whimsical, she was stylish and charming and sophisticated. She's basically this kind of archetypal, elegant French girl presented in a Pokemon friendly kind of way, where she is cheery and ebullient and passionate about things in the way that all these Pokemon characters are. But at the same time, there is still this depth and this sophistication that I really did think was interesting, and that I really did connect with. She was my favorite character in that anime. And I thought they had some very profound moments, such as when she cuts her hair after suffering that loss. There's this deep catharsis to a moment like that. And the show gives it space. It gives her space to really think about what she's experienced and recover. Serena in the anime is significantly younger than Serena in the games, I would say. Serena in the games is clearly like 15, 16. She's not 10 years old. But they kind of aged her down a bit in the anime to make her fit more with Ash and the others. And Serena in the games just doesn't really seem to have that same depth. She's not a bad character. I never actively disliked her. Both the male and female protagonists of Kalos are quite stylish, the better to show off, number one, that they're in France, and number two, to demonstrate the character customization features, the style. But I just feel like the characters are kind of flat. Like so many, unfortunately, of the characters of X and Y, I really like the region itself. Yes, it's this kind of stereotypical image of France, but that's not a bad thing. There's nothing wrong with a romanticized image of a beautiful place, especially when it's conveyed with such earnestness and such deep, wondrous sincerity that the Pokemon series always seems capable of summoning. There is a sense of elegance and style and beauty, a real care for aesthetics, thoughtfulness, elegance, just looking at places and spending time in places and caring deeply about places. There is this dreamy wildness that I think a lot of people who love Paris, myself included, associate with Paris and associate with France as a whole. But it's very much run through this Pokemon sheen, where all the dark or unsavory parts of a place like Paris are obscured, and all the bright parts, the wonder, the exuberance, the beauty, the sophistication are all enhanced. And I like that. It's not particularly deep. It's not something like you'd see in Dostoevsky or Tolstoy, but that's not what Pokemon is trying to do. It's just trying to present you with this beautiful, elegant region, a place that you want to spend time in, a place where you savor every little moment with that specifically French kind of elegance, and I think they fully succeeded in that. Where I think those games fell short is in the people you explore the region with. The villains are not the best. Lysander is one of the least interesting villains in the entire series, and as I mentioned before, the rivals are not particularly better. They don't push you, the player, provide much of a challenge in the same way that characters in other games can. I won't say the games feel saccharine, because there really is this deep earnestness to the whimsy and to the attempt at conveying the elegance of France and the beauty of France. And I have to say, even now, that wins me over, but I'm just left wishing there's more beauty without much else behind the appearance, behind the impressions, leaves one feeling a bit cold after a while. And that's one thing I think the anime really did fix. The anime has very strong, relatively speaking, character writing during that time. There is a sense of depth and care devoted to all of these characters, but particularly, I think, devoted to Serena. There is a lot of time that the show spends with her, really getting to know her, getting to think about what motivates her, what she cares about. And she really does grow a lot over the course of these series. It's not something that the show points to directly like it does with, say, May, who starts off in Advanced as kind of a brat who has no direction in her life and develops quite substantially into a mature, thoughtful, confident person by the end of the show. To the extent that when she appears in Diamond and Pearl, she is a kind of mentor to Dawn in a way. Serena's development is a bit slower, but I think it's grounded, and I think it's very much there. We see her become more confident and more determined in herself. What she says about Ash is correct. She does love him romantically, but she also feels that he helps her to be the best version of herself, a more confident, optimistic, caring person. And those two things kind of come together when she rushes up that down escalator at the end of the show and kisses him. It's cute, but it's also a mark of her confidence and her more eager passionateness that has developed over the course of the show. So, yes, I'm grateful to the anime for really taking everything that worked in the X and Y games and developing it, really providing that shiny, glowing, wondrous image of France, Kalos, with all that dreamlike wonder and beauty and gracefulness, while also adding more depth and adding more character work and really being focused more on the people that the journey is about and not just the landscapes, as beautiful as those landscapes are. So it's something I think about. I still think about those games fondly. I still think about the anime very fondly. Because they bring me back to a specific period in my life. And I think that period in my life when I was experiencing those games and that anime are worth remembering. So thank you, Serena. And thank you all for watching this video. Tune in soon for my next analysis. It will be coming soon, promise you that. I really love the world that Pokemon provides. Not in the sense that, oh, there are all these wild, beautiful creatures running around, but in the sense of it's the world I think a lot of people want to live in, myself included. A world that's just a bit better than ours, where people are a bit kinder and more thoughtful. It's not unrealistically perfect, but it's a world where hopes and dreams are genuinely encouraged in a way that feels real, and I think even as a kind of cynical 20-something, I find genuinely moving. Take care, everyone. Adios, comrades.